Everyone, it's a pleasure to be here again after Spaghett ETH Milan the other year. This year I talk as a project manager at Toduba, and I will talk about welfare, company welfare, and token economics. But before going into this, I just want to take a little step back about tokens and raising liquidity. The problem that alternative economies, also before crypto, but also crypto project, always had, is onboarding liquidity. For crypto experiments, we had like ICOs, liquidity mining, and I know there are a lot of you Dejans that know many other methods that I don't know. And the thing is, for people to put their hard-earned money into alternative system, it doesn't have to be from, there has to be some kind of incentive. And crypto incentives are like the very old-fashioned number go up, or maybe for having some kind of governance power in some DAOs that can interest the person. Be part of a cool community, maybe the community is token gated and I want to get the token to be part of that. Or maybe just for the memes, because you know, memes. There we go with the rhetorical question. What if there's some other way? Yes, there is, otherwise I wouldn't be here talking. We at Toduba found that company welfare, given some preset rules, can be a great liquidity bootstrapper, since only in Italy the welfare industry is valued at around 100 billion, so it really is a great market. And not only is a really big market, but also is required by law in certain countries, even certain contracts. For example, here in Italy, for the metal worker contract, which is weird, but it also applies to IT workers, has to give to employees 200 euros by the end of June. Also, not only is it is obligatory for companies, but companies get some tax benefits too. Since, for example, for meal vouchers, at the end of the year, the company can completely tax deduct this kind of goods. But it also is beneficial for employees, since it gives them some extra boost on their salary. Since when a company gives to their employees salary using euro in their salary, the company pays a bit more and the employee gets a bit less. Using welfare, 100 is 100 for both parties. However, in order to be compliant to such laws, we couldn't just make some token and just release it in the wild, make it go on an exchange or whatever. It has to have some spending limits. For example, in the category of meal vouchers, they have to be spent only in like supermarkets or alimentary shops. And this kind of limited part of possibilities of expense, at Toduba we are calling them spending circuits. So we can give a definition to spending circuit. So a spending circuit is a network formed by people who have credits with certain characteristics, which can be spent with some kind of limitation to a set of receivers. For example, merchants in some kind of commercial category. And given the high-level description of what is a spending circuit, we'll just delve in the details of the technical details of how we've approached this kind of concept. And so in Toduba, at the heart of our transactional system, we have blockchain. And we use the three systems to implement this kind of spending circuits. The three concepts are assets, trust lines, and events. An asset is more or less like a token, which is identified by a code and the public key of the issuer. And in Toduba, every circulating asset is completely backed one-on-one by money in a treasury, like a stable coin, but it's a specialized stable coin. Like we could have the asset BP for meal vouchers or gift for gift cards or whatever. It is really flexible. It's a really flexible system. And in order to define who and how much of these kind of assets can receive or can send, we'll use the concept of trust line. And the trust line is a direct link between a wallet and an asset. And only wallets with trust line, with a trust line to a certain asset, can send it and receive it. And so the meeting point between the trust line of the sending part, so the users, and the trust lines of the receiving part, the merchants, create this kind of spending circuits. Events, the last concept, is linked to the fact that these assets circulate in these spending circuits in a fixed fashion. And so in this life cycle, they have three major points where they do the life cycle. We have the sale, where us, Toduba, sell this kind of tokens, this kind of assets to companies. For example, a company pays us 100 euros and we give them, for example, 1,000 meal voucher token so that they can distribute it to their employees. Then there's the transaction part, where users can spend their tokens, their assets to eligible merchants. And the purchase part, which is more like a reimburse part, where merchants ask Toduba to give back them the money starting from their assets on which they have different maybe fee conditions or whatever. And each part of the vertex of this life cycle can be defined as an event. And to this event, we can enrich this kind of event with additional off-chain data. For example, in the sale part, we could enrich it with invoices. Maybe to the event of sale, we want to send an invoice to a company in such a specific fashion so that they can tax deduct their gift cards or their meal vouchers. For example, in the purchase part, we can also attach invoices so that the merchant can manage this kind of vouchers without abiding to law. And also the interesting part is that since this kind of spending circuits are limited, some kind of interesting spending behaviors data can be get from this circulating of money. I had a particular focus on company welfare because it was our first vertical in order to validate our technical and our business model. But it's not only that. During our years, during the last 5 years since Toduba was founded, we had also many other interesting use cases. For example, we can limit the spending circuits in order to give some services for some territory codes. For example, during the COVID-19 pandemic, the Italian state gave to municipalities, to cities, some 100 million euros, which was called Decreto Ristori. And this kind of money had to be spent by municipalities, but there were no rules. So it was a bit of a far west, like some municipalities used paper vouchers, some other use electronic vouchers, and some other municipalities instead used our solution in order not only to smartly manage money for their citizens, but also to limit the territory where they could spend it, since by law, by this law decree, this money had to be spent only in the city territory where it was where the money was given to the municipality. Another example of spending circuits are commercial organizations. For example, we had some pilots with supermarkets, like supermarket chains, but also with other commercial organizations like of single merchants in cities like Confesercenti. And this kind of spending circuits could be used to limit the spending of credits only to their associations, but maybe user by using their credits in this way could get some kind of incentive, something beneficial for them, like a discount or a cashback. And another use case that we've also already served are fairs and events, where, of course, the tokens that had to be spent inside the perimeter of the event or the fair not only had to be limited in spendability, but also in duration. Since fairs have a limited duration, tokens assets had to expire in this after some time. Still, I just want to go deep down on the part that spending circuits are not only for company welfare, but the incentives are not only for the company, the selling part, as per the event architecture of the POR, but there are incentives also for users and merchants, which are the other parts of the circuit. For example, users like private citizens could join some kind of spending circuits because some kind of spending circuits maybe as cashbacks or some merchant loyalty programs that incentivize them to go to a specific merchant instead of another, for example. And also merchants have the possibility, this kind of spending circuits mechanism, as of now that we are validating it, we are just the ones that can create this kind of spending circuits. We are a bit on a training wheel phase, but we are totally putting on our timeline, on our development timeline, to give merchants the possibility to create bottom-up spending circuits so that they can create, issue an asset and limit just to themselves or maybe other peers, like maybe some commercial organizations that I mentioned before. And that's it. Grazie.